Hello, everyone. My name is Nancy Pinchev, and I'm going to be sharing with you Steaming It Up today. I am a 23-year educator. This starts my 23rd year. I have taught everything from ECE through fifth grade. I was a classroom teacher and taught math, science, social studies, language arts, all of that good stuff, and have now moved into a technology position. And then this year, kind of moved it over again with COVID in the last couple of years, where I am now teaching a STEM-based class, a STEM design class with I was teaching it with social studies as my theme, but now I'm teaching science with my STEAM-based curriculum. And I'm going to share with you today some of the things that I do as I am teaching right now, 3rd through 5th, soon to be K to 5. And then because I love all the babies at my school too, and they're just so cute, I try to bring them in sometimes and do some fun things with them as well. So you can find my information for this presentation, this video, all the links and everything I'm going to show you are at my website, nancypinchev.com. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Pinchavable. And I share lots of things we're doing in the classroom, as well as some pretty cool things that I find. About once a month, I produce a blog post with the cool things I found during the month, and I share that out on Instagram and Twitter as well. So I made this cute little sign right here on Canva. Canva is an amazing program. It was made for business people, right? For advertisers and that kind of thing. And then they found out teachers were using it, and they say, hey, we charge really big money for all these businesses, but for educators, we'll give it to you for free. And you can create your classroom in Canva as well. And depending on the age of your students, you can assign work for them to do. My 5th graders right now are making an All About Me poster in Canva as their introduction to it. They love it and they want to do more. They can't wait to do book reports with Canva and everything else because it's really cool. So check it out, canva.com, and look for Canva EDU. You can also search for that to find the education version. And then you get all the good stuff for free, which I love free. All right, so this is my website, nancypinchev.com. If you click on 2021 presentations, if you put your mouse over that, you'll see the Florida Education of Young Children Conference right here, and that's where everything will be. And then, of course, you see me as Fancy Nancy because I am nothing if not Fancy Nancy, and she's my favorite book character. So today, I'm going to talk to you a lot about STEAM and literacy because I think, for me, the best way to start a STEAM lesson, a STEM lesson, whatever you refer to it at your school, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, or science, technology, engineering, and math, if you leave the arts out, okay? But I think the best way to do that, to start it off, is with a book. So I'm going to share just a quick snippet of a lesson that I do with a book right now. And that book is Not a Box by Antoinette Portis. There's also Not a Stick. This is right here under the arts. I have a lesson with this book. There's even a Google Doc, a Google slideshow that goes with it, with me reading the book and then the activities that we did. Another book that's a great companion for it is Jane. Back from a search. Sorry, my phone heard me. And wants to tell me something. So this is by Jane Yolen, who wrote the dinosaur books and lots of other great books. And it's What to Do with a Box. I sometimes read them together at the same time. But basically, this box, I read it to kids, and it's not a box. And it's a rabbit here using his imagination. It says, why are you sitting in a box? It's not a box. And what are you doing on top of the box? And it's not a box. And why are you squirting a box? Sorry, I skipped the page. It's not a box. And now you're wearing the box. It's not a box. Are you still standing around in that box? It's not a box. Well, what is it then? It's my not a box. So I read this book to the kids, and we go back and we talk about all the ways he's using his imagination. And then, depending on when I do this lesson, sometimes when I do the lesson, the kids are at home because we've had home-based learning, of course. And so they'll grab a box, or we've told the parents ahead of time, the parent has a box for them to use. If there's not a box around, a shoe box or something for them to use, they can grab their dry erase board or pencil and paper, and they make a box. So we make the box, and then we turn it into something. So what is your not a box going to be? So this is one of my favorite ones to do. My not a box becomes a planter. And then I make my weird flowers. And I'm like, I'm sorry, guys, I'm not the best artist, but here's my planter. Or my not a box can become a hat for a clown. Right? And sometimes clowns have little flowers on their head too. So your not a box can become anything. And then there's another book called Not a Stick. And again, the stick becomes all these things. And so we went out and got sticks, and I turned my stick into, I can't remember what I turned my stick into, but you can turn them into lots of different things. So that's just a small snippet. That was really quick, of course, because I spent a lot more time reading the book and discussing the book and discussing using our imaginations, and how sometimes it's hard to get our imagination to turn on. So we might need to look at more pictures in the book and listen to some people share their ideas before we get our imaginations working. So now I'm going to show you some other STEM kind of things that you can do. Now, each activity that I have here, now this is a Padlet. A Padlet is a fabulous tool. I love Padlet. I've been using it for many, many years. My entire school uses it now. Every teacher has an account. Every student has an account. My school, I teach at Sheck Community School in North Miami Beach, Florida. And my school is ECE through 12th grade. So we have 18 months through 18 years at my school. Every teacher has an account. Students second grade and up have accounts. We use it for a ton of different things. You can put in videos in here. You can put in links in here. You can take pictures. There's so many things, maps, all kinds of things that you can put into a Padlet, and it's pretty amazing. I love it. If you would like to know more, feel free to email me. I'll send you some examples. I love Padlet. It's great. We had teachers who gave each student like a little, at the top here, had their name on it, and they would put their work there. When we first ended up on home-based learning, the students would take a picture of the work they were doing in class or the homework they were doing and post it into the Padlet. And it was just an easy way for everybody to communicate when we first moved, because we didn't know what we were doing, of course, like everybody else. And so it became a really great tool. Okay, so here are the science lessons that I've come up with. Every lesson has a book that you can read. There are some activities there for you to do, some questions if you need to post your discovery questions on your board. So the first one is Shake It Up. It's Ziploc ice cream. I've done this many times with students of all different age groups, and they all love it. The book that I read with this is From Cow to Ice Cream. Now, sometimes you can actually find the book online being read by someone else. And I do use that sometimes, other people reading it. I especially use that when I can find astronauts reading in space or famous people reading books, because the kids get all excited about who's reading it and where it's being read. So there's nothing saying that you have to read every book. If you can find the book read aloud, and especially if you can find the author reading it aloud, even better. Okay, so From Cow to Ice Cream. And then right here, this link will take you to the directions of how to make Ziploc ice cream. It's not that hard to do. Just take some shaking. Remember to make sure you close the Ziploc bags completely, because that can make a mess. Burn it up. Solar ovens. I've done this again with many kids. I remember being in 7th grade and making my solar oven and trying to cook a hot dog on the hill at my middle school. I remember it to this day. And that was only like a couple of years ago, of course. But I remember that. My kids still come by and say, hey, remember when we tried to cook marshmallows in the oven? And I do. It didn't work. Because we live in Florida, and you would think hot, hot, hot. No, you forget that it rains every day sometimes in Florida. So yeah, that's what happened. But this will tell you directions on how to make your solar oven. However, I don't give directions to students on how to make the solar oven. I give them materials. I'm like, what do you think you could use? And I'll let them create. And sometimes we might have mirrors in our bag, and sometimes we might have shoe boxes. Sometimes we might have really big paper boxes. We might have some aluminum foil. We might have some plastic wrap. And kids just figure out, how they want to make it, and then we'll see which one did best, and it helps us to learn, right? What do cheese balls and your breath have in common? That was one of the first lessons I did with my club called Girls Building STEAM. And I bought one of those gigantic containers of cheese balls that they have sometimes around Halloween for Halloween candy stuff. I left it on my desk for like a month, and I had a sign, what do cheese balls and your breath have in common? And the kids were like, can I have some? If you're a girl and you come to my meeting on this day, you can have some. So it was an after school class, and I had probably about 15 or 20 kids come in, and we put cheese balls on the table, and they tried to blow them across to the other person's side so they could score. But in the meantime, those people are trying to blow their cheese balls across, and they're blowing. So we did wind pressure and resistance and friction and fun, So here's the book. Whoosh, said the wind. Here's some ideas. Ooh, yuck, oobleck. I did oobleck again last year. I do oobleck all the time. It's one of my favorite things. I had kids come in and say, so I checked my mom's cabinet and there wasn't any cornstarch. Can I have some? So of course I had to give them a Ziploc bag with cornstarch, because who doesn't need cornstarch to go make your own oobleck? And my hands, I dyed them red because that's the only food coloring I could find at the time. And it spilled all over my hands, and my hand was red for a week afterwards. And the kids were like, what about today? Yeah. So can you combine other ingredients and make an oobleck? We did that with chemistry with 5th grade this year. That's why we made oobleck, because we were doing a chemistry unit. So we combined salt and water, and what happens? And sugar and water, and what happens? What about if you put cornstarch and iodine? What happens? It turns blue. I didn't know it was going to happen. Somebody told me how to do that, so I did it. And it was amazing. And the kids were like, oh my gosh, why is it turning colors? I'm like, I don't know. What do you think? And so we had to look it up and find out. Why is it doing that? Blast off Alka-Seltzer rockets. So you take the old film canisters and you put Alka-Seltzer in water. You close it up really fast, and then it'll shoot off. Make sure that you make the kids stand back. It would be great if you could have goggles on, right? To remind them about protection. It's in the stars, marshmallow constellations. My kids absolutely love using marshmallows, and you can use toothpicks. We used spaghetti. They love making things out of spaghettis. And will it fly? Straw airplanes. Crystals with borax crystals. An echolocation activity in game. Do you smell that? Your smells and your senses. How far is it? Distance of planets for that one. Can you dig it? Is recycling and planting, and using recycling to create gardens for butterflies. And turning egg cartons into, you can turn them into caterpillars as well. Here's a puppet time. And something's fishy, Jello aquarium and gummy fish and sharks. A balancing activity, just a little bit, by Ann Tompert. Me and the Measure of Things is another book you can use for that. I got to check my spelling. Remember, spelling is not always, I try to type fast. Leave It to Us. This is a new one I just added today. And it's about a book with leaves changing colors, and how you know it's going to be fall. So you do a activity with leaf rubbing, so that kids can see what the leaves look like and the different shapes that you can find. And then you can go even deeper. What colors do leaves change, and when do they change that color? What color is first? What color is last? Where do leaves change color? Here in Florida, we don't have a lot of that. So my mom lives in South Carolina, and she keeps trying to save leaves for me and mail them to me so I can show them to my students. And so one time she froze them and then mailed them. It was brown when they got here. She's put them in plastic and mailed them. It was brown when they got here. You name it. We've tried a lot of different things. Animals in the Cold. So this Who Lives in the Arctic is a great book. It's a very short early reader book. And then you can play the book the game with Molly of Denali from PBS about animals in Alaska. So it really gives you some great relations to kids about different places. Because my kids, of course, here in Florida, would never be able to see the snow like you see in Alaska. So it gives them a way to look outside of themselves. And this is a pumpkin stem activity that I have created that I'm actually using with my class right now, with my third, fourth, and fifth grade classes. There's a workbook there that you can use. The Life Cycles of Pumpkins by Robin Nelson is a great book. I read it 200 million times to my kids for every single class. And it's been a lot of fun. There's some pumpkin in many different languages, the writing, how you write it and how it sounds, and lots of other activities are there and ideas. So technology is my love. I love technology only if it's used appropriately and when it should be used. So I don't throw technology into things when I can do it with paper pencil. If it's not going to make a lesson better and make it make sense, then I don't use technology. But here's some great technology things. So with Bloxels, you can make your own video game. You can buy the kit or you can use the app and do it. And it's really great. So there's a book, Who Invented Home Video Games. That would be great to, if your kids especially are interested in video games. That would be great. Roar Coding. So the book is Dinosaur Rumpus. And there's an app called Daisy the Dinosaur. It's a very simple app. My students have loved it forever. We've played it all grade levels. And it uses very simple arrows and coding so that you learn to code. Code is just a direction, giving a direction. So if I say stand up and kids stand up, that's a direction. That was a code. So this is a great way to introduce coding. Do you see that numbers at our school movie? So you read the book Hidden Alphabet, you read the book City 123, and in those books you see things that are every day, everywhere around you, shapes and numbers that you don't necessarily realize are there because it's just part of your everyday landscape. And then you walk around your school and you take a picture of numbers or shapes and you make a movie from that. So these are some of the activities that you could do for that. Making picture books, making your own book. So you walk around your school. Again, this is also talking about taking pictures and making it into a book. There's a book called Click, a book about cameras and taking pictures. So it will teach the kids how to take a good picture. And then you can print that picture out and put it into a book that you've made, a book that you've printed, that you print, right? Because sometimes there's books online and that's great. Nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it's great to have a book in your hand too, especially when kids make it so they can go back and look at it. I have books that my nephews made when they were in third grade and first grade. And I still have them because I use them at my school to show kids how important it is to write things down so you can remember things. And my nephews are 30 and 27. So I still have those of their books. I'll give them to them soon because they're having kids of their own now. So I'll have to take them back and give it to them. Are You a Lump of Clay? This one teaches you clay animation. You use simple Play-Doh and you make something and then you take a picture and then you move it a little bit, take another picture, move it a little bit, take another picture. And then when you put it together, it becomes an animated movie. There are lots of apps you can use for that. I have some here. If you need more information, I'll be glad to help you with that too. So engineering is building, and it doesn't just mean going out and building a house. There's lots of different kinds of engineering. There's chemical engineering. There's electrical engineering. There's all kinds of things that go in with engineering. Space engineering, lots of stuff. Here are some activities you can do with engineering. The first one is egg protectors. Kids love doing this one. I always come up with a story. So one time I told them that our chef Tony was the person in our kitchen at that point. I said, Chef Tony has the cooler is upstairs. And the other day they were bringing the eggs down because we have eggs. We have boiled eggs on our salad bar and egg salad quite a bit. So I was like, they were bringing the eggs down and they dropped them. And he was wondering if there was a way that we could make something that would bring the eggs down, that would protect them if they dropped them. Now, the students never even realized that the cafeteria doesn't have an upstairs. They were so intent on making sure they made this egg protector, right? So a great book to read with this, Who Pushed Humpty Dumpty? And then there's some directions on how you could do the egg drop activity. Maker is my absolute favorite activity. It is the best thing I've ever done. In the 23 years of teaching, Maker is the most important thing. And it took me 20 years to get to it. I've just started, well, probably about 18 years. I've been doing Maker for, about the last 5 years. It's the best thing I've ever done. Maker is simply making what they've learned. Instead of giving a kid a pencil paper test, the kids make something to show what they've learned. Maybe they make a movie. Maybe they use Legos and make something. Maybe they draw it out. They make a poster. They do something to show you what they've learned. And then they're able to use their passions, things that they love, to show you what they've learned. And they will go so deeper and do so much more than you ever could imagine. It's hard on teachers because you kind of got to let go. And you're not the one in charge. The kids are really the ones in charge. So it's a little nerve-wracking sometimes, but it is truly amazing. And again, if you'd like any more information about Maker, I'll be happy to help you with that. There is Global Maker Day. I highly encourage you to look up Global Maker Day. It is in October this year. You can go back and watch the different years. You can go back and watch the videos. They'll be on the Global Maker Day website. And it's really, really great. So with this one, you wouldn't want to live without fire. So you have to, is the book that you would read. And then the kids think, what can I do to make my life better? Because if I didn't have fire, we couldn't cook. Fire provides heat, right? So what would make their life better? What could they create to make their life better? And it could be anything from like a robot that folds clothes for them. It could be a something that reads to them, anything that they want. Towering over you, Marshmallow Towers. You read the book Skyscraper. It talks about all the skyscrapers in the world and how they came about. There's also a time-lapse video of building a skyscraper. It's amazing to watch. Can you build it? Oh, can you cross it? Sorry. Building a bridge that can hold 21 circus animals. So there's the book 21 Elephants by April Jones. And also Pop's Bridge by Eve Bunting. The 21 Elephants is about the Brooklyn Bridge and how they built it, and people were kind of scared to go on it. So the circus is going over, and they usually take the boat. They take all the elephants and all the animals on a boat, and instead Ringling brought the Barnum and Bailey, whoever it was at the time, one of those people, Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, I think it was one of those, brought their 21 elephants across the bridge, and that made people realize that if it can hold the elephants, it can hold me. So it's pretty cool. There's another bridge book that I recommend that is Iggy Peck, Architect, and I think it's in here somewhere. It's a great story as well. Toss It Over Here. You're engineering a catapult. I did this with my girls building STEAM. I said, today we're going to build a catapult. And they said, what is a catapult? And I said, I don't know. How can we figure that out? So they started Googling and they started looking for videos. And then they figured out, okay, this is what I need to do. I need something to make throw. How do I do that? And every single one of them that the 6 girls that came that day built was completely different than the other one. But they all worked. One of them threw backwards. Still don't know how that worked. She couldn't figure it out either. But all of them threw something, at least a little distance. So this is a cool way to get kids to use their imaginations. And then you can put a story with it, right? You can say, hey, there's a lot of catapults that get built and trebuchets that get built around pumpkin time. And they, at the pumpkin festivals, they'll throw the pumpkins around. But maybe you have a pumpkin farm near town, and the farmer needs to get the pumpkins from where he picks them over to the roadside stand. And he thinks a catapult's going to be the best way to do that. So make up a story. The kids will like it better that way too. If you build it, they will have fun. This is the Iggy Peck Architect Stories. Love Iggy Peck. Andrea Beatty is the author of Iggy Peck. She also has, oh gosh, I have to put my glasses on. Look over there. I have them all right over there. Ada Twist Scientist. Oh my gosh. And there's an Ada Twist Scientist cartoon that's coming out right now. Ada Twist Scientist is this young lady. She's in Iggy's class. They're all in the class together. And she wants to fly. And she built this thing and she shows people and it crashes and people laugh at her. And so she said, I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to do it. So she builds things in secret and she doesn't let anybody know. And then her great aunt comes to visit, and her great aunt has always wanted to fly. And so Ada Twist says, okay, here's what I built. And so her aunt takes off in it and it flies and crashes. And she's like, see, I knew I shouldn't have done this. And her aunt says, hey, but I flew. And she was so excited that she got to fly for a little bit, right? So it's a great story about not giving up and trusting in yourself. All of Andrea Beatty's books are phenomenal. She has some tag-along books that go with them that give you some um, ideas for challenging your students. She has Sophia Valdez, Future Prez. She's got lots of great books. Amazing storyteller. Andrea Beatty, check her out. She's fantastic. And then How a House is Built by Gail Gibbons. Gail Gibbons, you probably have heard of her. She is pretty amazing and pretty prolific with writing books, especially scientific kind of books. So, How a House is Built, and it goes through the steps of building a house. Well, here in Florida, we have hurricanes. So I do this with a challenge now. Okay, can you build a house that can withstand a hurricane? For people who live near earthquake faults, you might want to give the challenge. Can you build a house to withstand an earthquake? Floods are a huge problem. Can you build a house to resist a flood? Whatever kind of natural thing that happens around there, if you get a lot of snow, can you build a house that people could get out of if it snows and covers their door? How can we build houses to take care of natural disasters? Things that go are recycled cars. Pigeon loves things that go. I love Mo Willems. There's the pigeon finds a hot dog somewhere over here. Oh, here it is. The pigeon loves things that go, right? And he talks about all the different kind of vehicles. It's very short. It's just a cute little book. But then you let kids make something that goes, and they can build recycled cars. So you get the things that come off the top of the juice drinks. That's what the wheels are here. And I saw somebody posted on Twitter just this weekend. I wonder what people could build with these, because they had collected a bunch of those. And I thought a hovercraft was my first thing. You put a balloon through it, and then you blow the balloon up, and then you let it go, and it kind of like works like a hovercraft. But then I saw this, and I was like, even better, you can make a recycled car. So there's some directions there on making the recycled car. Build it up. This is another building one. If you've ever read any of the Three Little Pigs stories, they're amazing. There's so many of them. So one of my favorites is the Three Ninja Pigs. And then I also have some more versions here for you. So you read one or more of the Three Little Pigs, and then you challenge the kids to build a house that will stand. And you give them each, you put them in groups, so they each get a different material to build with. Here's the directions. So they get like sticks, like popsicle sticks, toothpicks, and then index cards. And then you can give them glue or tape or whatever you choose to give to them. And everybody has a different outcome, and it's okay. Then we compare, and we're like, wait a minute, what if we put these things together? So it's just a great lesson. So the Miami Heat are our basketball team down here. So one of my lessons for my girls building STEAM was heat. So all I put up is like a word or a phrase that gets them interested to come in and see what's happening. And this time I put up heat, and they thought we're going to do basketball. But instead, we read books like My Crayons Talk, The Crayon Man, The True Story of the Invention of Crayola Crayons, The Day the Crayons Quit. And then we made melted crayon art. And this was the best thing. They picked out the crayons they wanted. They put it on a piece of construction paper. They taped it down. And then I started it with my hairdryer. And then my hairdryer blew up because there were so many kids there that day. So they took it home, and they got their parents' hairdryers and blew them up. And the parents were like, what are you doing? And so they explained, this is science and I'm learning. And the parents were like, okay, go ahead then. So it was quite amusing, the emails I got after that. But the parents loved it because the kids were so interested in continuing learning and seeing what would melt it. So we didn't start with the hairdryer. We started with a hot plate. We started with fluorescent bulbs. We started with a lot of different things, and the kids had to, predict what's going to make it melt. And lo and behold, the thing that made it melt was the hairdryer. Can you hear me now? We made a record player. One of my music teachers said, yeah, bring your kids in. I want to show them something. So she had a Lazy Susan that spins. And so she had the Lazy Susan. She had a record, which most of the kids had never seen. And she had construction paper, cardstock, I think. And then she had pens. And she's like, can you put this together and make a record player? And then we had to show them what record players and phonographs actually look like, because I had no idea. But then they were able to figure it out. The books for that are Music, and there's a Poppy Music series. that I love. I have a bunch of them over there because I teach a sound unit, and I like to read a book, especially the younger children's books, even to my fourth and fifth graders, because they love to hear books, and the more language they hear, the better off they'll be. So I usually read a book to them for every lesson that we're doing. This one is Mola. It's art with shapes. So we read the book Biblioburo. We actually did a Cinderella Around the World, fairy tales from around the world one year. And we read different books of different fairy tales from different countries and did activities to go with it. And this was one of the ones that we did, was creating Mola art. We took all the countries that my students were from and searched for art and activities that we could do with the different stories. And so Mola was one of them, and they put art together to make different shapes together to make art. And it's easy and it's fun and it's really pretty what they end up creating. Animal Farm, you're creating animal masks and acting out the story. So for this one, I have books that are in English and Spanish, like La Gallina Grande, the big fat hen. It's a bilingual board book. And there's lots of others of those too. You can search for them on Amazon and get them out. And then this will teach you how to make the mask. It'll give you some printable masks that they can cut out and then decorate. This last week, we read a book called What If You Had Animal Ears? There's a whole series. What if you have animal tail? What if you had animal hair? And then we had headbands, and the kids made the ears of the animal that they wished that they had. So that's another way that you could do that. The whole series is phenomenal. It'll take you a long time to read the book, though. I realize it's a very long, detailed book, but the kids loved it. And it shows them animals that they had never really gotten to know before, like the Tasmanian devil and a serval cat. And so it was really a lot of fun. Quack, create a duck mask and kazoo duck calls. So the book Quack and Count by Keith Baker is a great book. You can take a toilet paper roll and wax paper and a rubber band, or you can tape it on, and that makes the kazoo, the duck call. And then you can count one and make the duck sound, two, make two. So it's just a lot of fun. And making the duck mask just makes it even more fun to put the duck mask on, march around the room making your duck calls. Where is it? Animal camouflage, where in the wild. This is one of the things I'm doing upcoming in my STEM class after school, where we'll be making some animals in camouflage, lizards and snakes and other animals that we can think of. The deer with the spots when they're babies, that's because the sunlight coming through the leaves makes a lot of things speckled and it helps them blend in. So these are some activities that you can do with this. This is the camouflage song and a chameleon video that can go along with it. Mix it up, creating new color combinations. There's a book called Mix It Up by Hervé Toulet. And I bought it at a museum one time, and it's beautiful. And we make our own colors. So I squeeze some little small bowls, some paint, and they have to write down their math combination: 2 blue, 1 red, 1 yellow, and then they mix it up and see what they can make. Okay, and there's a video for that as well. It's not a box, it's not a stick. What do you do with a box? This is a presentation that I created and did live and then shared it out with whoever couldn't come. The Symphony of Sound. This is from my sound unit that I do. The book is Welcome to the Symphony by Carolyn Sloan. And when we're learning about sound and the different sounds that are made by different instruments, I found this video. It's George, and he's at the Australian Orchestra, and it's amazing. He gets to learn about all these different instruments, and he's super cute, and everybody's really great how they share everything. So I love that one. Sketch it out. Sketchnoting is my main goal this year in teaching science. It's one of the ways I want kids to learn how to take notes. I know in my school, they teach them how to do jot dots at a certain age. They teach them how to do outlining, and every grade level teaches a different kind of note taking. So I teach them sketchnoting as another way to take notes. And we sketchnoted this year. We did it with our pumpkins, but there's a book called From Seed to Plant, and it takes you all along the steps of the life cycle of a plant. And so this is an easy one to sketchnote because you're drawing a seed, you're drawing a flower. So it's easy things. to help them get used to drawing it. And this video is just an introduction to sketchnoting and how you can use it. So let me move myself over. Here is my math unit. Will it melt? Gummy bear, science, and math. So last year when I took over the science class, I was teaching from home for the first part of the year. In fact, I didn't go back to school until April last year in person, even though my kids were there, because I was teaching so many classes. It wouldn't be healthy and safe for me or for the students for me to be in all the rooms. So I taught through Zoom from home until April. And I wanted to put a science project in the window of the science lab so that kids could walk by and see science in action. So I decided I was going to do a gummy bear thing. And you were supposed to put a gummy bear in plain water, salt water, sugar water, and something else, and supposed to watch and see what happens. Well, I forgot that I live in Florida and it's hot and my windows face the sun. And so all that happened was that the gummy bears melted. One was supposed to get bigger. One was supposed to stay the same. Whatever. Nothing happened. They all melted. But there's a book called Gummy Bear Counting Book that you can read, and then you get to, taste it, have some fun. And this is the activity about will liquids affect the size, the shape, and the feel of gummy bears. Don't sink the boat. This is data and graphing. So read the book Monster Ships or Floating and Sinking. And then you have the kids create a boat. And they'll say, out of what? And you say, I don't know. Here's some materials we have. You can give them things like sticks. You can give them things like aluminum foil. We made aluminum foil boats before, and they will float. And then you put in marbles to see how long they will float. And it's fun, And then don't let it fall. Math Jenga. You read The Man Who Walked Between Towers. One of the Lindas who walked between the towers, and then you let them play Jenga math. So if you go to Dollar Tree, their Jenga blocks are cheap. They're $1. They're a little bit smaller too, but then you write math facts on them. So when they pull the Jenga block, they look at it, they have to answer the math question. If they get it right, they get to keep the part off. If they get it wrong, they have to put it back on the tower. Or you can have them put it back on and get a point, however you choose to do it. Here's Picasso painting. You read Picasso Loves Shapes by Judy Lee. I think that's what you said. Yeah, Judy Lee. And then there's a lesson here from the NSA.gov about rolling dice, and whatever it lands on, that's what you create. So sometimes you may have 5 noses and 1 eye on your painting. Seuss-tacular, Math with Dr. Seuss, One Fish, Two Fish, or a lot of Dr. Seuss books. And here are some lessons that you can do and some online games that you can play. Dr. Seuss has another fabulous book called What Was I Scared Of? And it's a glow-in-the-dark mystery. And this kid is, the character who's telling the story is scared of something, so scared. And it turns out there was really nothing to be scared of. And so it's really teaching you that even though you have your fears, keep stepping out, keep trying. I do know that Dr. Seuss has a lot of detractors because he did have a lot of questionable things that he did as a person and that he promoted with some of his work. I have read things that says that he was sorry about it later on. Okay. So I don't promote Dr. Seuss as a person, but some of his books I still use because of their content. So you really have to think about that and think about what message you're sending to your community when you read books. And it's not just Dr. Seuss, it's any kind of books and any kind of person. You have to often stop and think. So one of my favorite things about math is non-standard measurement. So we measure things using candy. We measure things using straws. We measure things using markers, using pennies. So how big is a foot is a great way to introduce that. The king wants to build a bed for his queen. And he's like, she's 5 foot tall. And then they have to figure out how big 5 feet, because one person's foot is not the same as another person's foot. So it's just a lot of fun and a lot of mayhem goes on here. Me and the Measure of Things, and then Inchworm and a Half are also some great books that do with that. And then you measure with non-standard things. So kids let get to measure with whatever they want. You can measure a book, you can measure a desk, and then you compare the measurements to a real measurement using a ruler. So you get to measure with non-standard and standard and then compare it. Skip 2, make fingerprint animals and make 2 of each and count by 2. So when you're working on skip counting, there's a book called Dos in el Zoológico, or 2 at the Zoo. It's another bilingual board book. So then you make fingerprint animals and you have to make 2 because they have to go 2 by 2. Flip it, tally it, graph it. It's keeping track of data. There's lots and lots of books about data. One of them is Tally O'Malley. That's a great one. Let's make a bar graph. Let's make a tally chart. The Great Graph Contest. I have that one too somewhere. It's over there. And so there's lots of great books about graphing that you can use. And then you graph things in your class. So I did a lesson for PBS Kids, PBS Southern California, where kids were super into flip bottle, right? So we let them take a bottle and decorate it, and then they flipped it, and then they had to tally how many times that it landed up and how many times that it fell over. And then they had to make a bar graph from their tallies. So whatever your students are really into, then use that and have them make it into a bar graph. If they're really into birds, you can watch a video or watch outside for birds, count the number of birds. If they're really into cars, then watch outside and see how many of, 4-wheel cars, 2-wheel vehicles, more than 4 wheels, go by, tally mark it, make a graph and show what they're learning. There's a lot of great activities here. I also had students, we read a book called Giraffe Graphs, and it is a trip to the zoo. And so the kids made tally marks for the animals that they saw and different things that happened at the zoo. And then when they came back, they made bar graphs. And so we looked at their bar graphs, and we made, using the chunky Legos, we made bar graphs using Legos. So that was a fun activity to work on as well. How far can you fly? You create 3 different airplanes. You make one out of regular copy paper, one out of cardstock, one out of construction paper, and try to make the same folds for each one. And then you fly them and see what the difference is. Or you make different airplanes out of the same, all 3 out of cardstock, but just different folds, and you fly them and see which one flew the farthest. Uses lots of measurement, lots of problem solving. There's a book, Keep Your Distance by Gail Herman, Sam Sneaker Squares. And there's some directions here. There's also a foam airplane kit that you could try to buy if you wanted to buy some too. Delicious graphing. So this one uses the book Lemonade for Sale. I use a lot of these books. I used to teach a gifted and talented math class, and I did everything based on books because that's what makes me happy, is reading a book to kids. So I would read a book, and then when we go into making math happen out of those books. So you could read Lemonade for Sale. They try to make graphs to show how much they've sold. And then here's an online graphing program, because you can always draw the graphs yourself and all, but sometimes it's fun to try online stuff too. This is another one I have right over there, Spaghetti and Meatballs for All. It teaches area and perimeter. And so they create a certain number of meatballs and a certain number of seating. And then they invite more people, and more people come, and less people come. And then they have to move the chairs around. They have to make sure they have enough meatballs for everybody. And so it's area and perimeter can be really easily tied into this. And so there's a website called Toy Theater that has tons of stuff, including an area and perimeter explorer. So you can plan your own party and make sure you have enough seating for everybody. And then I'm always on the lookout for more stuff for STEM and STEAM. And so I found this. It's a huge collection of literacy that goes with STEM. Somebody else had made, so I put that in here too. Chris Woods has a website and a blog and all kinds of stuff for the Daily STEM. And he's phenomenal. And he creates a STEM newsletter every month that he puts out. That's great. So he also he started off with 77 things you can do at home with your kids for STEM. And then 77 more, and then even more, and then even more. So he has a ton of things that you can do with either as a teacher or as a parent. I send a list out every summer to our families. I'm like, here's some great ideas that you can do at home as a family to keep kids excited about learning over the summer. So it's definitely something you want to check out. Here's some measurement books, different levels of measurement books that you might want to look at to see if anything will work. Now, again, if you're teaching kindergarten, don't limit your reading to books that are only for kindergartners. You can read higher level books to them or lower level books to them. Don't limit what you're reading based on the age and what a book says the level is, because you can read anything and discuss it and help your kids understand it and then apply it. I'm not a fan of leveling books for certain readers, because if a kid really wants to read Harry Potter and they're only in second grade, let them try. And if it's too hard, they might put it away for now and then come back to it again. They can read it with their families and talk about it. If I am teaching fifth grade and I read a pigeon book to them, they're going to love it because they get to remember when I read this to them when they were probably 2, because I used to be in the library. So when they were 2 or 3 or 4 years old, I read the book to them and they remember that and they'll make that connection. Or maybe they had these books when they were that age and they still love to be read to. And even when I teach, sometimes I teach high schoolers and I will still use children's books to read to them to kick off something, especially if I'm doing social studies or a math topic, just because it gets them interested. It releases some tension that sometimes kids feel with certain subjects that they might not feel is their best. And then we can get started. So I highly recommend find books, and any book you read, there's going to be some kind of science, technology, engineering, art, or math connection. Sometimes you can connect all of them. Whatever you're reading, whatever you're learning about in your social studies curriculum, there's going to be a read aloud play, or there's going to be an article, or there's going to be something. Whatever you're doing in science, you can find some kind of connection. Even if it's barely connected, you make it work. So I hope you've learned something today. I would love to hear from you. Again, you can reach out to me. Here we go. My website is nancypinchev.com. My email is nancypinchev@gmail.com. And I am at Pinchevable on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter I use for a lot for professional things. I share what I do in my class. Instagram is where my parents at my school are. So I post things on Instagram for the parents to see what's happening in our school and in my classroom. If you have any questions, please get in touch with me. I would be excited to continue this conversation. And if you go to my website and you're looking around and you see something that you're like, hey, that's cool, I want to use that. I wonder if it's okay. Yeah, it is. Because I have presentations so far this year. This is my 3rd presentation. I have some resources for online learning that I put together when we first started COVID and as we kept going. I mean, seriously, I have a ton of things, right? And then I also have presentations for many, many years. And if you see something that you like and you want it, please feel free to share it. Please feel free to use it. I don't want things just to sit here stagnant and never be used again. I make these things for people, for teachers, and for parents to keep using for many years. So please do so. It's been great talking with you today. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you so much. Have a great day.